Today we're setting the record straight about a few European death-related historical bits and bobs that the internet loves to get wrong, and people with no knowledge about death or history tend to believe. So please like and subscribe if you learn something new, and let's talk historical death facts. Every now and again, one of these images will come up on social media and people will exclaim how they died screaming. Which is kind of like saying, okay, look, my cat is smiling at me, she must be happy. Stop putting human emotions on something that isn't. Okay, so basic 101 of death. When you die, all your muscles relax. Yes, there is rigor mortis, but then they relax again after that. This includes your jaw. A relaxed dead person doesn't have a closed jaw. Funeral directors and those who deal with the body will often put a rolled up towel under the jaw or a bandage around the head to keep it closed, assuming that it hasn't already been wide shut during embalming. These mummies didn't die screaming, they just died and were left there to naturally mummify, and this is the outcome. Then, depending on where they were put on display for various reasons. Stop trying to make something that's natural into something scary. So this is a malt safe, and again, the internet loves to throw up photos of them and claim that they were put there to stop the dead from crawling back out of the grave. They weren't. They were there to stop body snatchers from digging up fresh bodies and selling them off to medical schools. And if you want to know more about the body snatchers and how they were thwarted back in the day, check out our recent video on the topic. Now yes, folklore of vampires and the like were very real in these places pre-1800s. And many did use unusual tactics to subdue potential vampires. But this wasn't one of them. Also, these malt safes were only common in mid-1800s, long after the people in this area had stopped believing in this part of folklore. Contrary to popular belief, people back in the day weren't being buried alive left, right and centre. But with medical science being more guesswork at the time, and with large-scale epidemics being rather common, sometimes it did happen. So various people across the continent did invent safety coffins. The style varied, but they often had a glass pane so you could see the face, a bell attached to the outside to summon the attention of the watchman, food provisions, air tube and keys to the coffin. Now, these didn't take off. They weren't common, and they were an oddity as they were hugely expensive and well out of reach of the everyday family. Also, there's no reported cases of anyone who used one actually being found to have been alive. While they certainly weren't the only ones to do it, the Victorian English were well known for having taken photos of their dead. But here's the thing. A lot of these pictures floating around the internet or up for sale online aren't actually death photos. Let's explain. Back in the 1800s, death wasn't hidden and was very commonplace as medical intervention wasn't what it is today. A child living beyond their third birthday was a very big deal. Nowadays, when a baby is born, parents take dozens of photos every day as they grow up. Not so in the 1800s, and families usually didn't have any photos of their children at all because photography was still in its infancy and quite expensive. So when a child died, they often positioned them like they were asleep, or the mother held them and they had a photo taken as a keepsake. Again, remember, seeing death back then was normal, and this wasn't seen as creepy or anything. Now, if an adult passed away, they may lay them out in a coffin or a bed and take a photo. Very rarely did they position them upright like they were living. The photo was a memento to keep. They weren't delusional or trying to make it look like the person was alive. So that was death photography. What isn't death photography are images like these. Keep in mind that these new cameras weren't instant. They took a few seconds to actually take the photo, and everyone needed to stay really still so the photo didn't come out blurry. Retakes were very expensive. Not a problem if you're dead, but a bit of a problem for the living. Many people note these small stands that can be seen in photos seemingly propping up a person, and many unscrupulous people who sell these photos online use these as markers of authenticity that it's an actual death photo. Now, I'm not sure what kind of material people think they were working with back then, but a skinny little stand like that ain't holding up the weight of a dead person. Sorry to burst your bubble. In reality, these stands were used to keep a person's head still, or rather remind them to keep still for the few seconds that it took for the camera to do its thing. which is why you usually see them in the backgrounds of photos with children, or if the photographer was known to be very selective about his craft. So I hope that has dispelled some myths for you. There's a common misconception that people often have when thinking about people back in the day, that they were stupid or didn't have the thinking abilities that we do today, which is absurd. All these going-ons made sense in their time period. So give us a like and subscribe if you learned something new. Thanks for watching from Gary and I. Now go talk death.